Now today on the program, diplomatic ties and development take center stage as Nigeria's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Bianca Ojukwu, meets with Ghanaian officials over rising tensions and protests targeting Nigerians. We unpack the implications for regional unity. Plus, a 13 billion naira electrification boost gets Federal Executive Council approval, aiming to power up universities and hospitals nationwide. Now, what does this mean for learning, healthcare, and national development? This is Standpoint. I am Precious Amayo. Nigeria's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Bianca Ojukwu, has met with her Ghanaian counterpart, Samuel Abiakwa, following a wave of anti-government Nigerian protests in Ghana. The protest, sparked by allegations linking Nigerians to rising crime, prompted Ojukwu's swift diplomatic visit to Accra. She confirmed that Ghana's government has assured the safety of Nigerians with no plans for mass deportation. The federal government says it is working on a peaceful resolution, urging calm and stronger bilateral ties. Meanwhile, the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission condemned the blanket criminalization of Nigerians, describing it as unfair and misleading. Chairperson Abike Dabi-Erewa called for restraint, stressing that no Nigerian-owned property have been attacked. Senator Aniaka Bassi also weighed in, calling the protest disturbing and urging continued diplomacy to preserve regional unity. Now, African Affairs analyst Victor Hyde joins me on the show for more on this. Good to have you join us.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Again, African issues, it keeps coming up, but this one is sort of bears some sort of historical weight, as it were. Of course, you will know better than I do. 1969, 1983. We're back at that again. What's your reading of this particular situation?
I think this one is a bit different from the others. What a lot of people have failed to talk about is what caused what happened in 1969 and 1983. 69 was an unfortunate year because the war was still on, so that should never have happened. 83 was a disagreement between what you call it now, Shehu Shagari, and then Jerry Rawlings, because Jerry Rawlings obviously was, after overthrowing Liman, he was suspecting Shagari of trying to overthrow him, but these were some remote causes, but the immediate cause was in December when there was a robbery at, first of all, the Kano riots, which were led then by mainly foreigners. A lot of them were Cameroonians, but the height of it happened when there was a robbery at Alex Kweme's house, the then vice president, and then the foreigners, and two of them were Ghanaians. And you know, it was also an election year. In a bid to assuage Nigerians' feelings and probably gain more popularity, then of course it wasn't exactly Ghanaians being targeted, but they were in the majority, you know. And then of course the issue of Ghana must go and all that, because they were in our faces, they were in our schools teaching, they were in our neighborhood, you know, doing menial works and all that. And so that was just the excuse that Shehu Shagari at the time needed to just say, look, everyone move. But in this particular case, of course, you know that what precipitated it, when you see things like this happen, there may have been remote causes, but there's always an immediate cause. The guy who was trying to set up a village in Ghana, you don't do that, especially in people's faces, you know, things that we need to be discreet. It's like what happened to, I'm trying to remember his name now, the Nigerian fraudster that has now been arrested and jailed in Dubai. I'm trying to remember his name. I can't quite remember.
I think I know. I'm also trying to remember his name as well.
Most of our listeners would know who I'm talking about. The things you do. Even if you're doing the right thing, you don't put it right in people's faces. You know, and when you do that, you draw attention to yourself. And you know, Ghana, in recent times, has been going through difficult times, struggling in the economy, and then you're coming to flaunt your riches and all that, and saying you want to set up a village.
Sensitivity to
the local
environment,
yes,
and
your
the local
environment,
politics as
the
well.
environment you're operating in. You know, so that was not discreet at all. The way he went about it was just not right. And, you know,
but should you even be setting up a kingdom or a village?
It's wrong.
Whether the timing is right or not, but should you even be doing that?
No, you don't do that. And then you say that in a sovereign land. That's not just on. You want to put your Serking Hausawa as they have them, or Ezendigba and all that. Okay, that's okay for your people, but you come and you want to build a village within a sovereign land. It's like, I mean, who does that, you know? So it just, those who had been looking for the excuse to, I mean, who had pent up anger against Nigerians, naturally just seized on it. And Nigerians are like, I'm sorry to use the word, like Jews, you know, around the world. Sometimes you don't even need to provoke anybody. You go to a place and then you immediately begin to prosper over and above the locals. You're bound to be the butt of envy. It happens, you know. But Nigerians have also lived very well with Ghanaians. Nigerians have a good track record, not just in Ghana, but in so many other parts of the country, but a few bad eggs. Now, what are the accusations? They talk about prostitution. Who patronizes the prostitution? The prostitutes. Who provides accommodation for the prostitutes? You know, these are questions we need to ask as well. Prostitution cannot thrive in isolation. You know, obviously, if there's a buyer, there will be a market. Okay, and so the issue of kidnapping and the rest, and rituals and all that. I mean, it's easy to point as a Nigerian, but this is something that's also local.
Absolutely. Maybe some of it exaggerated, but
yes,
you know, you also have to know that there are local collaborators if it does exist.
Yes, it does.
And then I agree with you that, you know, sometimes the way, because we're very industrious, the nation has taught us to be industrious. You find Nigerians taking up jobs that nobody wants to take up.
There's a word for it: hustling.
And it can be really intimidating when you find opportunities in a country where people didn't even see that as an opportunity, and then you rise above. But is there also a sense, because it is not just Ghana, there is the UAE, we also have that issues at some point in the UAE, there is South Africa. It's also saying that, look, maybe from our end, something is not right.
Okay, so there are immigration formalities and all that, and then within the filter, some people manage to go through. I can assure you that in spite of all the, if you like, hundreds or thousands of killings that take place in the US every day, the day a Nigerian is involved in a killing, all the media were carried, and it seems like all Nigerians are killers. It happens. I don't know why it's like that for us, but unfortunately, it's easy to magnify anything as, about Nigerians. Yes, I saw a video, a lady who was saying, look, the common denominator is Nigeria. Why South Africa, now Ghana, and then you talked about the UAE. Good question. I mean, the case in the UAE is not, we hear about it here, but it's not peculiar to Nigerians. They have the same problem with people. I mean, Somalians have, I'm sorry to mention other countries, you know, but there are a few other countries that have reputation that is not so pleasant because of the few individuals among them. If you go to South Africa, they talk about Zimbabweans, they talk about Somalians, they talk about other nationalities. Nigeria just happens to be one that is, you know, just blown.
But if you're a common denominator, I mean, shouldn't that also give a reason for concern? And I'm saying this because, you know, sometimes it feels like because we, live in a country where sometimes it's easy to get away with wrongdoing. Some people can get away with wrongdoing because the law sometimes, you know, that shift in balance isn't there. And then so you could take that mindset to other countries thinking that, look, maybe it's also easy to get away with things here because of where you're coming from.
I agree with you. There are cultural differences. For instance, there are things that are normal here that no one would even bat an eyelid. You go to another country, there's a culture shock first and the cultural differences, and which is why many countries will say, look, respect our culture. You cannot bring your laws and impose them. So there's that issue, no doubt about it. But I think that even those countries owe an obligation to their citizens as well. I'll give you an example. Rwanda, for instance, has opened up its borders to all Africans. It's visa-free. You can go to Rwanda. Kenya did that recently. Rwanda is a relatively good country and comfortable right now for anyone to go to. But why are we not hearing stories from there? Because the system works. The law works. You move around Rwanda, you feel eyes boring through your back. It's like Big Brother is watching you. Under trees, you might see policemen. You will see policemen in corners. They're not talking to you. They're not saying anything. They just park there in uniform or without uniform, but you just know they're there watching you. Okay? You can't throw things anyhow because there's zero tolerance for corruption, for impunity, for doing the things that are normal for us here. And so the system works. And so in every country, it's the same reason that in many countries there are politicians that are as corrupt everywhere if they can get away with it. Criminals abound everywhere if they can get away with it. But what happens is that where systems work, people know that you cannot get away with it. And so there is order. So I think that where there is a systemic breakdown, it is also, or where they say Nigerians or foreigners are, they pick on foreigners, but the locals, what they do is always more than what the foreigners do. But they pick on foreigners because, it's easy to just blame it on foreigners. But where your system works, people cannot get away with it. So the responsibility should also be on those countries to make sure that their systems work, their policing works, their immigration works, so that, if these things work, then there will be no problem. So as much as you might say Nigerians have a problem or there are foreigners coming into your country and doing it, the question is, you have immigration. Who lets them in? You have your local police. Are they in collusion? Are they unaware of what is happening? You have jails. There's a reason for jails and prisons. Why aren't you doing anything? Or is there local collusion, for instance? I'm not excusing or exonerating Nigerians, by no means, no. But perhaps even these countries need to look inwards and ask themselves whether there's collusion locally. As we say, the town rat cannot succeed the outside rat cannot succeed without the collusion of the house rat.
So let me ask, because right now we're in for Nigerians, I think perhaps one of the most difficult times to travel. Immigration has become increasingly difficult for Nigerians, except you hold, another citizenship or another passport. And I'm wondering, is it because of issues like this, the overgeneralization, painting Nigerians, with one brush, or just really because of the conduct of Nigerians, some Nigerians abroad?
Okay, excuse me for for saying that our embassies have not helped matters at all. And why do I say so? Your ambassador is supposed to be your president in that country. If you have problems, you should be able to go to them. Under the Vienna Convention, if there's any issue at all, the first port of call is to get your embassy so that they can intervene and then see what the issues are. Now, if you have ever been to any of our embassies abroad, if you're not a known face and you go there, you're in Nigeria, they lock you out. They treat you like you're a common criminal, like you're also a criminal, even before hearing you out. To get a passport or renew a passport is difficult. I expect that within a country, and let me start by commending Bianca Ojukwu, Ambassador Bianca Ojukwu, for her prompt, or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs generally,
for their prompt response.
Just seeing them talk together with the foreign minister also sends a message to Ghanaians. What they're saying there is, because what it assures us is there's not going to be any deportation or mass deportation. The people may say go, but unless the government backs it up, it's not going to happen. Okay, so that was prompt action. She was there quick, it was responsive, and they have said, we're brothers, none of that is going to happen. The optics are very good. The next step is to see if they can have town hall meetings. I expect the ambassadors to be able to do that, call and say, look,
Nigerians who live in Ghana.
Nigerians and even the Ghanaians say, please come. Let's look at the issues. What are the issues? And if you do that, there's something about giving people an opportunity to vent. To speak. It helps them release tension, and all of the anger just leaves, and then there's time to be able to speak. Common sense can then prevail. You know what I mean? Now, our embassies don't do any of that. I want to make bold, and I want to be proven wrong. But again, I don't know. I hope I'm right that we also don't have ambassadors. Our ambassadors have not been appointed.
They haven't.
That is a huge gap. So I cannot be blaming them, although there are embassy staff already in those countries. Someone is going to be in charge. But I want to use the opportunity to speak to the president and say, please, appoint ambassadors and give them a charge.
2 years in?
Yes. Appoint ambassadors, give them a charge. Let them, help to, resolve some of these issues before they escalate. It's very, very important. And
I want to stay on the point you raised earlier, because I find it quite interesting where you talked about the signal or the optics of the visits or the prompt response of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I want to tie it back to why immigration perhaps is also difficult for Nigerians, or why Nigerians are treated the way they are treated abroad. Does it also reflect on, or is it also a reflection on the value that government places on its citizens? Because there's some countries you just know that look, and they carry their country with pride. You can't treat their citizens in certain ways.
You dare not.
And so is it also a reflection of how the value that government has placed on its citizens over time, and people feel they can get away with whatever they do to Nigerians abroad?
That you just hit it. You hit the nail on the head, and I say so because even Nigerian Americans, when they come to this country, and you talk to them and say, I'm an American, I'm an American citizen. It just, you say with a sense of pride, not just because it's America, but because they know that whatever happens to them can cause a diplomatic uproar. You can't treat them anyhow. So it is the value your country places on you that determines how others treat you. It's like a husband and a wife. If a man treats his wife with disrespect,
in-laws will follow suit.
Obviously, you're talking about, but if you know that that's a no-go area, then you know that if you want favor, whether you like her or not, you control.
So I need to put you on hold. We need to take a break. A row between a protest against Nigerians in Ghana, which has now received the prompt response of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And we're looking at what that means, not just for Nigerians, but for ECOWAS, for Africans. That spirit of the African brotherhood seems to be missing. And I've been speaking with African Affairs analyst Victor Hai, who joins me in the studios. Thanks for staying with us. Thanks for staying with us. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
So we're talking about, just before that break, how the value that government will place on its citizens. But I wanted to just now look at the ECOWAS itself, because that spirit is supposed to be there, but we find it really missing. Is there a sense that, because we haven't seen, whether it's the African Union, whether it's the ECOWAS, just regional blocs, citizens taking ownership of those blocs, is there a sense that we are missing the spirit of these regional blocs, or this spirit doesn't even exist in the first place?
Okay, it was Kwame Nkrumah who first of all talked about a united Africa. This was his dream and his vision. It was looking at a situation where, all of Africa will be like one country and then different states under it. And so even in setting up sub-regional, units like ECOWAS, SADC, and some of these other regions, the idea was to see how, even at that level, we can begin to blend. Ghana, for instance, signed the ECOWAS treaty joined in 1975, and then they signed the treaty in
1993.
Yes, 1993. And I still don't see, I see it on paper, but I don't see the spirit. And the reason is that the idea behind it is to have regional integration. Now we're talking about it at an even bigger level, at the African level, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, where what you call it now, customs and immigration borders are removed and we're able to trade freely among ourselves. But none of that is happening as freely. You go to the borders from here, if you go by road from here to Ghana, right from Seme border here, I mean, it's hellish. Now, my idea of regional integration is like, look at Nigeria like several countries. Nigeria has a population of over 200 million. You can produce a good here and sell it in Auranamoda. You can get up in the morning and just go to Sokoto or go to Enugu. No problems. That is an ideal.
That's trade.
Yes, not just trade,
Economic
movement as well,
movement,
immigration, everything.
I want to, sorry to
that's
interrupt
the idea.
you.
Yeah.
Because, and I always had that, because when I talk about African integration or regional integration, my first thought would be, economic integration. But now it will seem that there will be no integration if you do not have the integration of the people, and that's where it should start from.
Okay, so we're divided along, apart from the regional blocks, along language lines as well, based on our colonial roots and our past roots. You have Anglophone Africa, Lusophone, the Portuguese, Arabophone, Arab, Francophone, and which other one? I think these are four major, Anglophone, Francophone, Arabophone, and Lusophone. These are four major language blocks. And to a large extent, this didn't do us any justice. The partition of Africa didn't take into cognizance, how we were related. You look at Badagry, for instance, and the people of Badagry and the people of in Benin have common language, Yegun language and all, and they were separated. One Anglophone, one Francophone. Now, the biggest example I will use about how this kind of misalignment or I don't know how to put it. If you look at Cameroon, they are fighting themselves. Not even along their local language lines or whatever, but along colonial language lines, Francophone and Anglophone. And it's so tense. You go to Yaoundé, for instance, and that's why it's like, that's Francophone, obviously. So it's like the Anglophones are treated like second-class citizens and all that in the same country, So
perhaps a reason for the call for secession in some African countries as well.
Yes, these are some reasons, obviously. So now there is a need for us to be able to sit down, and I want to say it here and now. The AU is a toothless bulldog. They have not, and
almost doesn't exist at this point.
It's like they don't even exist. When you look at what they did to somebody like what's her name now, Ambassador Arikana Shombori. She was AU ambassador to the US. And when she started speaking about what the French were doing, they used people within the AU, to kick her out. Because they felt very uncomfortable. And so the Francophones ganged up together and they kicked her out. But of course, she has been proven right with what is happening now. Now they are trying to liberate themselves from the clutches of France. So there's a need. The integration is not quite there yet. Like I said, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area agreement is supposed to bring us all together. We're supposed to remove visa restrictions. How many countries have done that?
But just, I have a few minutes left.
Okay.
Again, apologies for jumping in, but I don't want to leave without talking about what we can do to resolve all of these issues where we can coexist without xenophobic attacks or languages, whether it's for Nigerians or just even other African countries. Do we revisit our treaties to now reflect current realities? What can the Nigerian government also do to ensure that Nigerians are treated well in other countries?
Again, I want to talk about the issue of our ambassadors. They represent us in each of these countries. The kind of relationship we form with these governments, go a very long way. The president cannot be everywhere. The ambassador is able to sell Nigeria to this country. Let me tell you about what soft diplomacy can do. The French are here with the Alliance Française. The Germans are here at the Goethe Institute. They're running programs all the time. They bring journalists, they teach the local language. And when you know a person's language, they don't just teach language, they teach culture. Okay? And it's the same as traveling. When you travel, you know people, and the people know you. And when you speak their language, it opens you up to each other. We're not taking advantage of our soft diplomacy, soft power inherent in sort of things that we have. What's wrong with our local embassies, running, excuse my using this, because that's something people can easily relate to, playing Nollywood movies, having cultural days when they can invite locals to come, meet with Nigerians, get to know Nigerians more, get to know Nigeria. They enjoy our music. Some days you do things like that. Let's begin to engage the local community. It starts from that. And then there are other aspects with which we can engage, But at the AU level, there's a need to strengthen, because it is not in the interest of the colonial powers for us to be united. The French will continue to tell the guy those they can control, the British will control those that they can, so that we cannot speak with one voice. We must come together and say, we're first of all, and that's the spirit of Ubuntu. You exist because I exist. We are Africans, and we must look at ourselves first as Africans.
And perhaps we have to rethink the idea of the African Day and let it really reflect, Africa Day. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
As always a pleasure to have you, especially when you're in the studio. Victor Hai, African Affairs Analyst.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take a break. When